Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? It's time for episode 6 of the Chuck, Jasmine, and Pryce section of the Minimum Battle series, and we are back with a brand new set of challengers. Here in this episode, we're just getting a big variety. We've of course got Golbat, which means Crobat's coming in this one. We're also getting Venomoth, so we kind of get a roleplay as Koga. We'll see how that goes. We also get Dugtrio, Persian, Golduck, Primeape, and Lanturn. This is just quite a mix of Pokemon, and a lot of them have pretty clear strategies. Obviously, with the Dugtrio, for example, we expect to do well against Jasmine. We expect to struggle, possibly against Chuck's Poliwrath and against Pryce. Primeape, in theory, has just like the easiest time of all of these Pokemon, I think, because with stab fighting type moves, it's going to do good against 2 of the gyms, and then the other gym is its own typing, so it can probably get it to work. I'm going to be very interested to see Persian. Some people were mentioning that as a Pokemon they thought would struggle in this episode. I'm not quite so sure because of stab normal, but I think the real wild cards here are the bats. The bats might just not get moves that are good enough to get through this section, given that they aren't going to learn any ground type moves. They're going to basically be stuck with things like bite trying to get through this section, and I'm not sure if we can get enough flinches to actually get it to go. But we will find all of that out as we go through. We'll also throw in a few of our member picks. We're going to have that Vileplume up there, as well as Psyduck, since Golduck is in on the action this time, and we will have CheenChou, since we're doing Lanturn, and CheenChou was one of those Pokemon that even with the support of a channel member barely managed to get through the last section, so it's going to be very interesting to see if it actually survives here. Surf may carry it, but we'll just have to find out. But still, I think the 3 channel member picks will probably make their way through, though Vileplume is a little bit questionable, but I am going to predict that at least Golbat is lost in this episode. So I'm going to guess that we get 7 of 8 through as far as the legit challengers and all 3 of the channel member picks through, but please tell me your predictions down below. With that, let's get started, and I'm going to lead off with Crobat since it's the only Pokemon that we have like a fully evolved form and then a less evolved form. Let's just get the bats out of the way, and then we can get through everything else. So of course, leading off with our Crobat, this is a Pokemon I did a full game solo run with before, and what I remember feeling a lot was that it was ridiculous that this Pokemon did not get access to Sludge Bomb, and that its moveset just wasn't very strong in this generation. We do have Detect strats in this section if we really want to go YOLO. We also get Wing Attack at level 30 that could help us with Chuck, and Fly is going to be our best same type move. But outside of that, there's not really a whole lot to look forward to here. We may end up going return strats. We may end up having to drop rare candies to actually progress through this part of the game. Let's get into it and find out. Now, it is worth noting that the previous full game solo challenge that I did with this Pokemon was on 0 DVs, and that actually gave a bit of an advantage to Crobat because it had hidden power fighting. Yes, it was only 31 base power, but it was a super effective move against Jasmine's Pokemon, whereas here we're not going to have anything super effective. In fact, everything's going to be resisted there, so we're really going to have to hope that we manage to deal enough damage to get through that. It could be a case though where having the max DVs actually helps us get through that fight better, just because we're significantly stronger than we were in that previous run. So who knows? We're just going to have to see if it actually works out. For starters though, we'll come into the Rocket Hideout where we should have no issues with our Pokemon as we just easily get through all of these opponents. And sure enough, we get to the final executive battle with no issues with this Pokemon, so let's just see how this actually works out. Of course, she leads off with the Arbok. I'm just going to go for Bite here. It leers me, but I don't think that's a big deal. I'll confuse it just to be safe. It hits itself in confusion, and we should knock it out with 1 more bite. It even hits itself, so we get through with no damage taken. That brings out Murkrow, where we are going to go Confuse Ray. Now I'm going to Screech because I want to lower its defense and then go into the Leech Life, which is neutrally effective. We get a nice crit, and then it knocks itself out the next turn. That brings us finally to Gloom. It drops Acid on us. Very good job. We're just going to Screech at it once, and then let's go into Leech Life just because we can recover HP, and it's a nice physical move here. Even when we get put to sleep and we're getting hit by Acid, we don't really care because it's not like it's going to do massive damage to us with that move. So just a couple more hits, and we do in fact get through with no real difficulty on that executive. That being said, I'm not sure we're going to do that well with Golbat there, so So we're gonna have to see if it actually works out when we come back with our less evolved form, but at least for now, Crobat is cruising through this section. And we are getting fairly close to a level up, so I'm gonna make my way over towards Chuck. I believe we still have to do the lighthouse with this Pokemon, so it should be perfectly fine to get us to level 30, get us wing attack, and then we should have an easy time inside of Chuck's gym. And sure enough, we didn't even go to the lighthouse previously, so we've got some trainers to fight along the way just to give us some extra experience, so we should definitely be getting to the level 30 before we even have to go to the next gym. But now as we get a learn wing attack, the question is, which move do we forget? Honestly, I think bite strats will be too important in this next section. Screech could be significant for allowing us to get through something with wing attack. Confuse Ray I also think is too valuable. So honestly, the only move I can think to get rid of is Leech Life, just because it is a very weak non-same type move, and while it does allow us to heal some damage in battle, I'm just not sure that that's ever going to be enough to really tilt the scales in any of these tough upcoming fights. So I'm going to forget Leech Life to learn wing attack and hope that that is enough to actually get us through this one. As usual, tell me in the comments if you think that is a mistake. But now that we have our orders from Jasmine to go down to Cyanwood, I'm going to make my way straight into Chuck's gym, the one that should be super easy here, with stab, wing attack, and with a 4 times resistance to fighting type moves. This should be an easy one. So let's just get this gym out of the way and then hopefully move on to the real challenges. So first up, we have the Black Belt Bros. I'm just going to go straight for wing attack and destroy Hitmonlee. That's going to bring out the Hitmonchan next, which I also think just stands no chance here. It's a strong physical same type move that is effectively 180 base power here, so it's going to destroy all of these Pokemon. With Crobat, as we come into the Chuck fight, I'm absolutely certain we outspeed everything, so it's just a question of whether or not we want to hit KO against that Poliwrath. Let's get into it and find out. So Chucky Boy leads off with his Primeape. I go wing attack. That's an easy one-hitter. We get to level 32 right here as Poliwrath comes out. Wing attack is going to be a 2-hit KO, but it misses the Hypnosis. So very easy game. We'll keep in mind that with the Golbat, we're probably going to want to put on the Mint Berry there, but really there's nothing to worry about in that fight. And with that, we can even learn Fly right here from Chuck's wife, though I will put that one off for a little bit because honestly, in the next couple of fights, I don't think that Fly is going to be that useful for us. We're far more likely to need to go for like Return here in order to actually progress in the game. But for now, I'm going to go and take on Pryce because I think he's going to be the easier of the next 2 gym leaders. So let's just check this out. Of course, Pryce's first Pokemon is the Seal. We're just going to go for the wing attack here and see the range. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but then he missed his attack. So we actually get to knock that one out with no damage taken. That brings out the Dugong. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon, hoping it hits itself. It does. Now I can wing attack, and it looks like it's going to take 2 turns, but yet again, we're going to get through with no damage as we get to level 33. That brings out Piloswine. I'm going to go for Confuse Ray again. It hits itself. I'm going to Screech once. It hits itself again, and now wing attack just ends it. So we get through Pryce on the first attempt with no damage taken. That's ridiculous. Oh, Pryce, you were supposed to be so much better than this. Oh, that was easy. But that may be short-lived. We may have found the one easy spot in the entire game because now we have to go and take on Jasmine, and I expect this to be an absolute nightmare, especially without hidden power fighting. Even at 31 base power, it was effectively a 62 base power move against Jasmine that could be combined with Screech and Confuse Ray in the full game solo challenge that I did with this Crobat before. Whereas here, the best that I think we're going to be able to do, assuming that our current moveset doesn't work out, is going to be to go for something like Return with a King's Rock. And then we're going to be hoping for Confusion and Screech and everything. I'm just not sure that this one's actually going to work out. So in this first attempt against Jasmine, I'm going to go in with the King's Rock, hoping that I can get some flinches and confusion and maybe some Screech luck in order to actually get through. But let's see if this works out. out or if it's just an absolute nightmare. So Jasmine attempt number 1. First, I'm confusing the Magnemite. It hits itself in confusion. That's what I wanted to see. Now we go wing attack and we did like nothing. But that's kind of to be expected. I'm going to Screech here. It hits itself again in confusion, and I do knock out the first Magnemite with no damage taken. Let's confuse the second Magnemite now. It misses Thunder Wave. We miss Screech. It hits itself in confusion. Now we Screech it. It does manage to land the Thunder Wave on me this time, and now it goes Thunderbolt and does massive damage. And sure enough, we're getting through that Pokemon, but we get to Steelix with basically no HP. It does miss an Iron Tail, okay. And it hits itself in confusion once, but then it hits an Iron Tail after that and we die. So clearly that's not looking very good. Maybe we need the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I'm going to test this just a few more times. Now the other thing that I do want to see is what is the damage range with Bite. Since it is a special move, it's only 2 times resisted rather than Wing Attack being 4 times resisted here by the Magnemite. It's just not doing a ton of damage. It still looks like a 4-hit KO. So it doesn't seem like the King's Rock is getting the job done. I'm gonna now see what happens if instead we have on the Paralyzed Cure Berry, just because it at least allows us to tank 1 Thunder Wave and still heal up. Still, we're gonna need some pretty good confusion luck on these Magnemites, because once we're paralyzed, that is basically game over. This time we actually managed to get through to the Steelix on full health with no status, which is kind of ridiculous. So I'm going to confuse this Pokemon. It hits the Iron Tail and does less than half, so now I'm going to Screech. It snaps out of confusion immediately though. Now we do get it to be confused. I'm going to still have to Screech it again, and if it just keeps hitting Iron Tail, we're guaranteed to lose. There's just nothing that we can do. We needed it to hit itself more often and give us the chance to actually lower its stats, so that we could see what kind of ranges we're getting, because it's not like we're going to be doing great damage here with our Wing Attack without the Screeches when it resists our moves. So yeah, this is really not looking pretty. So after quite a few attempts here, I think the only option is to go Return. We're simply not dealing enough damage with Bite. That's a 4-hit KO, and we're not even getting anywhere close to that with Wing Attack without using a bunch of Screeches. So honestly, this is the best move that we're going to have. Everything's resisted here, but at least at max friendship, this will be like a 50 base power move, 51 base power move against all of these Pokemon, and that may just be what we need to actually progress. Now, I do think we have to go back to the King's Rock here just to have a chance of getting some flinches, because again, I think flinch plus confusion is the only way this is actually going to work. So let's get back into the fight and just see if we can get it to go. So here we'll confuse the Magnemite turn 1. It hits Thunderbolt and does way over half. Let's just see what Return does at our current happiness, which is 191. It does significantly more damage. This looks like it might be a 3-hit KO on the Magnemite, and I think when we get max friendship, it will be a 3-hitter guaranteed. So I'm going to try now with max friendship just to see what kind of range we get after that. So we're just going to see what kind of damage range it is, since we did get paralyzed here. Oh yeah, this is easily going to be a 3-hit KO. Might even be less than that if we could just get a crit on one of these Pokemon. Who knows? Maybe we got a low roll here even. So I do think we want our opponent to hit themselves in confusion. This time it misses Supersonic, which is nice. We're trying to Screech at least once here just to see if that allows us to get a better range. Of course, when we get paralyzed, it's basically game over, but we can see that 1 hit in confusion plus a Screech plus a Return is enough to actually get through there. So we're going to need some luck to actually get them to hit themselves in confusion, but this should actually work out in the end. So getting the opponent to hit themselves in confusion twice, for example, would be a 1 in 4 chance, which means we have about a 1 in 16 chance of getting through the 2 Magnemites without taking any damage from them. So this is going to be really random, but I'm then interested just to see what we actually do against Steelix before we give up or start using rare candies. This time we do in fact manage to get through both Magnemites with no damage taken. I go Confuse Ray on the Steelix. It hits Iron Tail, which still will do less than half. We Screech once. It hits the next Iron Tail, and now it finally hits itself in confusion. With 2 Screeches, let's just see what the damage is with Return here. We did pretty good, but that was a critical hit. We do manage to get the flinch though, and that gets her all the way down to very low health, but Iron Tail does end me with 1 HP remaining on the Steelix. So we're going to have to grind this out a few more times because this could turn out to be possible, but it's definitely not consistent to get through this fight. The next attempt, we are back to Steelix on full health yet again, and this time Steelix hits itself in confusion the first turn. We've already seen though that we need to set up these screeches here to have any real shot, and when it gets a defense drop on us with the Iron Tail, it just two-shots us at that point, so we're in pretty bad shape. A couple attempts later, we get another shot at Steelix though, so let's go back for the Confuse Ray and the screeches. This time we're hitting, and it's hitting itself in confusion twice. Now it does manage to hit the Iron Tail, but I get all three screeches set up. I'm going to go for return now, and we get the KO with a crit. Are you kidding me? Oh, that was ridiculous. Oh, it took 23 attempts to get through there, obviously trying different strategies, but once we went to the max power return, it didn't actually take that many attempts, fewer than 10. So is this consistent? No. Is it possible? Yes. But it's not pretty. You're going for the max power return here. You are going for confusion strats. You're going for the King's Rock in order to flinch, just to have that extra possibility of getting one more turn against any of these Pokemon. Confuse Ray and Screech are absolutely necessary, but against the first two Magnemites, you don't worry about the Screech. Just go Confuse Ray and then try to knock them out, because they have a 25% chance to miss with Thunder Wave, a 50% chance on any given turn to hit themselves in confusion, and the chance that you flinch them thanks to the King's Rock with your return. And at least on max TVs, they're effectively 2-hit KOs after they hit themselves at least once in confusion. Then the Steelix is all about just getting the luck for it to hit itself a couple times in confusion while you set up these screeches, and then it would definitely be a 2-hit KO with 3 screeches on, but with the crit, we just managed to get the range to knock it out. That was ridiculous. So, Crobat, kind of begrudgingly, I'm moving on in the game. I don't think Claire's going to be easy for this. The League's definitely not going to be easy for this one. If I recall, we may have some serious issues when we get towards the end of the League. We'll just have to see how that works out. But for now, Crobat, still alive in the Minimum Battles series, but hanging on by a thread. And I would not be surprised if we end up using all of the rare candies before we even get through Johto. But that, of course, brings us to Golbat, which already went return in the last section, and I'm not sure that it's going to be good enough to get through here. We don't have the Confuse Ray, which probably was a massive mistake. I'm guessing that I took off Confuse Ray to learn return because I thought that having Leech Life would be useful to me, and I think that's probably going to be the end of this Pokemon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this out with this moveset, but I may end up slapping on Confuse Ray over the top of Leech Life just to test it out, but honestly, this Pokemon's probably dead on arrival. Now, Golbat successfully makes it to the end of the Rocket Hideout without too much issue, but I did go take on the Lighthouse first, and we have max power return, so we were doing a lot more damage to most of these opponents. Still, we have to see how the final executive goes, so let's just get into it. She leads off, of course, with the Arbok. We're going to go for return, and this is going to be a 2-hitter here as we get wrapped, but that really won't do too much, so we easily get through. That brings out the Murkrow, where we just stick with return. It's going to be a 2-hitter on this Pokemon, but another easy victory. Here we get to level 30. We can learn Wing Attack. I'm just going to learn it over Leech Life for now, and that means that against the Gloom, we can go Wing Attack, but obviously return would take this Pokemon down nice and easy as well. But with that, we now have to make our way to Chucky Boy's gym and just hope that we can manage to get through. But since we're already in Mahogany, I think we may as well just try Pryce once, just to see if max power return is enough to get through him at our current level. I just want to do this because I think it's kind of interesting. We'll probably lose, but let's find out. So Pryce attempt number 1 on the Seal, we just go return. This is a 2-hit KO as we get hit by Icy Wind, but we do knock it out the next turn. That brings out the Dugong. I'm going to go return here. We do over half with a crit, but then we get absolutely destroyed by Aurora Beam. Piloswine's out last. We go for return, it hits Blizzard, and we lose. So yeah, clearly that one's not looking very good, especially without the Confuse Ray. I just don't think we're going to get through at this point. So instead, let's go down to Chucky Boy and see how he goes. So So here in Chuck's gym, we can start with the Black Belt Bros, and I just want to see what Return does on Hitmonlee. It's a 2-hit KO, but we're obviously not going to take much damage, so that's still an incredibly easy fight. Obviously, it's a little bit weaker than Wing Attack here, though, just because Wing Attack has the same type attack bonus and is super effective. So obviously, Wing Attack would be the play here. We could obviously have forgotten Bite to learn Wing Attack, for example, since the King's Rock does at least exist. It does give us a way to still flinch opponents even without Bite strats. So I'm just going to get into the Chuck fight and see how it goes with this moveset. Like I said, I'll probably forget one of my moves, either Wing Attack or Bite, in order to learn the move Confuse Ray. Honestly, I think that Bite is the one to go in this one since we've already learned Return anyway and we can't forget that move. But let's just see how this actually works out. If we go Return in this fight, it's going to be a 2-hitter on the Primeape. We get leered, but that's not really too bad. We get to level 32 as the Poliwrath comes out, but here we can see that it's going to be a 3-hit KO with the Return. And here Surf is doing about a quarter, but then we get a critical hit as we wake up and knock out Chuck on the first attempt. Oh, he was gonna beat us on the next turn and we just got super lucky to beat him. Obviously, Wing Attack would have been better there, but hey, whatever works. Now we can come and talk to his wife and get access to Fly, and we can basically confirm that everything that we've beaten with Wing Attack here, we could have also beaten with Return. It's just not quite as consistent. Maybe we forget Wing Attack to slap on Confuse Ray and basically just go the same moveset as we had with Golbat, given that we would at least have a chance to flinch with the Bite strats. They might actually be better. I'm honestly just not sure. But for now, I'm going to make my way back over to Pryce, and let's just see if we can beat him at this higher level. Now, I am going to give the King's Rock at this point because I do think it's the best way to get through. Just having that chance to flinch might make this fight a little bit easier. So let's get into it and see if it works out. So first up, we've got the Seal. I'm going to go Return right here. It's still a 2-hitter, but we get a nice flinch, so easy victory there. That brings out Dugong. We do less than half. It does less than half with Aurora Beam though, so we do at least have a chance here as we knock it out. That brings us to the final Piloswine. We go Return, it hits Blizzard, and we lose. It's pretty clear that we would need Confuse Ray to make this even reasonable to get through, so I'm just not going to waste any more time. Let's forget Wing Attack and make that instead be Confuse Ray to make up for my mistake earlier on. Now, I'm forgetting Wing Attack because I can learn Fly, so I can at least get another same type move here, whereas if I forget Bite, I don't really have a good makeup for that. I mean, I guess Hidden Power Dark could be the play, but Fly is effectively our best same type move, so I think that we just clear out our slots right now for that and hope that it's enough. So back to Pryce again. I'm going to Confuse the Seal. It does hit Icy Wind and we do get a speed drop, but now we can go for Return and then it goes for Aurora Beam. So really not looking good on this first one. Here against the Dugong, I will Confuse it now. It still hits Aurora Beam. We kind of need him to actually hit himself in confusion if we're going to get through this one. It is a 50-50 chance each turn, and because we are faster and Confuse Ray is 100% accurate, we are guaranteed to at least get that 50-50 shot. This time we do not get a speed drop from the Icy Wind, which is good at least, but he still moves both turns. Dugong now does finally hit itself in confusion, and it hits itself again, so we're going to get through that Pokemon still on green health as we get to the final Piloswine. Let's go for the Confuse Ray. It hits itself, we go Return, we get a nice critical hit, it goes missed. Now he goes for the Hyper Potion, so we had to knock him out after that, but still, he didn't hit the Blizzard, so that's all that matters. And we do manage to get through with Golbat here. It's not pretty. It's hard to get through Chuck. We were probably kind of lucky there with the Crobat earlier on, honestly. But hey, we'll take it as we now head back to Jasmine. Now, we do have quite a few rare candies available at this point in the game. I mentioned it in episode 1 of this section, but we can get the rare candy that's in Violet. We can get the rare candy that is just south of Goldenrod. We can obviously get the one that is up next to the Lake of Rage, the Lighthouse. There's one in the Whirl Islands that is technically available that we'd have to navigate in the dark. And there's actually a rare candy on the way over to the Pokemon League, still on the Johto side before you go through Tojo Falls, that is possible to get your hands on as well. So there are 6 rare candies available here. We may need all of them. I'm not really confident, but we're going to go in and test out this strategy against against Jasmine and just see if maybe, just maybe, Golbat can find a way through. So Jasmine attempt number 1, we come in against the Magnemite. I'm going to confuse it. It hits the Thunder Wave, and that's basically already game over. Once it does hit itself in confusion, we can just kind of see the ranges here, and it looks like we're possibly going to need 2 hits from this point still to knock out that Magnemite. I'm not sure. It may be a case where if it hits itself once, then 2 hits is enough to knock it out, but it might be 3 hits. That could be terrible. If it hits itself in confusion twice, though, I'm pretty sure that we can knock it out with just 2 returns, and that's what we're going to need to get through here. Still, we're going to have to get through to the second Magnemite with much better health than this if we're even going to have a shot. Now, basically, we can just auto reset anytime that we get Thunder Wave, because with the paralysis, we're just definitely not getting through here. We get a nice flinch on this one, and we can see that 2 returns plus 1 time hitting itself in confusion is not necessarily enough to knock this Pokemon out. It still has 1 HP, and now it paralyzes me, of course, out of spite, and we get confused, and now we're getting wrecked. So the fact that we're not getting the range here on these Magnemites makes me think we're gonna have to go for rare candies, because that 1 extra turn per Pokemon is absolutely the difference between being able to get through and not being able to get through here. And even then, it's insanely close. We get a nice Thunder Wave miss on this one from the second Magnemite though, but it then hits the Thunder Wave, and it's refusing to hit itself in confusion. So once again, we're simply going to go down. We actually get a crit, allowing us to get to the Steelix, but Iron Tail is just far too powerful for us. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a couple rare candies here just to see. So let's get ourselves to level 35, which is the next damage rounding threshold here, and that may be enough to actually allow us to get the 2-hitter after we at least get Magnemite to hit itself once in confusion. Then we can go for flinches or a Thunder Wave miss to still have a chance to get through. And sure enough, we look to be doing a lot more damage here, so provided we don't get paralyzed and it does hit itself in confusion, we should have a chance to get through this Magnemite in just 3 turns. So this time we do manage to get through to the Steelix, though we did get paralyzed, and then we can see the critical hit Iron Tail just did massive damage. And here the problem is that when we're paralyzed, we don't have the possibility of getting flinches, so we have even lower chances of getting through this Pokemon, and this just isn't looking very good against these Magnemites. A few attempts later, we're back to the Steelix, but yet again, we're just paralyzed and there's nothing that we can do. So it's pretty clear that yes, we got insanely lucky with the Crobat, but also that Golbat is probably going to need more levels to actually get this to go. At some point, we may be able to just straight up 2-shot the Magnemites, in which case we'll have a much easier time getting through these Pokemon, but otherwise we're just going to be stuck waiting for a certain kind of luck to actually get through them. And when we don't get it, we're definitely just getting wrecked here. So back to the bag, let's go up to level 38, which is the next damage rounding threshold, and let's see if that turns these Magnemites into pure 2-hit KOs. So I'm not even going to mess around with Confuse Ray, let's just see return right off the bat. And at this point, this is a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon, so we can get a flinch, we can get a Thunder Wave miss, or we can get a crit in order to simply get through either of these Magnemites. So this time we do manage to get through to the Steelix on full health. We're going to confuse this Pokemon. It hits Iron Tail, but does less than half. Now I'm going for Screech as it hits itself in confusion once. It hits itself again. We just keep missing the Screeches here, so I'm going to have to reconfuse this Pokemon. It hits itself there. Now it misses the Iron Tail. That's really what we want to see. We Screech a 3rd time, but now it snaps out of confusion and simply knocks us out. We missed like half of our Screeches there though, so that was pretty bad luck at that point. We may be able to get better ranges than that. A few attempts later, we are back to Steelix though, so let's confuse it again. This time we hit the first Screech, then it snaps out of confusion. We're gonna have to reconfuse it. It hits itself again. Let's go for a second Screech as it does Iron Tail there and get a defense drop. It hits itself in confusion. Let's just see what range we get. It misses an Iron Tail. She Hyper Potions there though, so we're gonna have to reconfuse the Pokemon after that. It looks like a 3-hit KO after 2 Screeches. So I think we just go for 2 Screeches and then try to go all in on attack, hoping that we can manage to get the ranges, knowing that she will use the Hyper Potion. She hits herself 3 times in a row here, so let's just reconfuse Steelix. It hits itself, we go return, we don't get the range, but it knocks itself out in confusion, so Golbat does manage to get through, but used almost all of the rare candies to do it. And even then, it's not like it's perfectly consistent there, it's really not, but there is a strategy. You're basically getting the level 38 so that you can 2-shot against those Magnemites, using the chance that they have a 25% chance to miss with their Thunder Wave, and I think it's like an 11% chance that they flinch. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but at least that's like a 35% chance for those 2 Pokemon, and then you're not getting one-shot by the Steelix, which is the most important factor. You can confuse it, you can survive 2 hits, and so between confusion and flinches, you're just hoping that that turns out to be enough to get through. Still, Golbat is probably a pretender at this point. It's not a legit challenger in this one whatsoever. At the very latest, I think we die against Will. That's my prediction, but for now, we are moving on in the game. But with that, we're ready to get to our first channel member pick. From Tamonowo, we are running Erika the Vileplume. We're coming in with Hidden Power Dark, Acid, Return, and Petal Dance. Kind of ridiculous, and because this Pokemon learns no level up moves, doesn't get access to things like Sleep Powder that would actually make this Pokemon pretty OP, so I'm kind of nervous how this is actually going to go. Now, we'll start thinking about creative ways to get this Pokemon through if we absolutely need to. There is also the possibility of a Gen 1 trade up, which would have Sleep Powder as well, so kind of interesting things to look at, but for now, we're going to try to run this Pokemon and see if it can actually manage to get through this section. Now, unlike Crobat, this Pokemon does learn Sludge Bomb, so it will get a stronger same type poison move. And since we're already running some of the strongest moves of our type in other spots, I think we'll have a decent shot of getting through. The question is just how good is it actually going to be? Now, of course, Vileplume did get through the Rocket Hideout with no issues. We had a little bit of troubles on Jed, the guy with 3 Magnemites, but that was just because I went for Petal Dance and hit myself in confusion. Outside of that, we're not really going to have any issues in this section, so let's just see how the final executive goes. She leads off with Arbok, where I think the best play is Return. We do well over half, so it's a nice easy 2-hitter as we take a Leer. That brings out Murkrow, where we're just going to go Return, and we barely miss getting the 1-hitter. Acid will finish that one off. And now against Gloom, Return is the obvious play. It's going to be a 2-hitter here as it drops Acid, but basically does nothing, so the executive goes down on the first attempt. But now this is a Pokemon that I think we really want to go straight to Pryce with, since at least against all of his Pokemon, Petal Dance will be super effective, and that's going to be our smoothest way of getting through this section, I think. The badge boost in special will really help this Pokemon out. And now I will get access to Sludge Bomb here, but it's not guaranteed that it's going to be worth anything in this section, so I'm just going to keep it in the bag for now. We'll save that for perhaps when we get to the league. Could help against Will and his flying and grass type Pokemon. But for now, let's just make our way to Pryce and see if Petal Dance is enough. So Pryce attempt number 1, we go Petal Dance on the first seal. It's an easy 1-hitter right there. Dugong comes out next. We continue the Petal Dance, but this is going to be a 2-hitter on this Pokemon. So we do get a 3-turn Petal Dance, which allows us to knock that Pokemon out, but now we're going to be confused on the final Piloswine. We hit ourselves in confusion, it goes Fury Attack. Now we do get a hit Petal Dance, and we get the 1-hitter with a crit, so we beat Pryce on the first attempt, getting to level 33. That might have been pretty lucky. I'm pretty sure the crit was required to one-shot there, but hey, we'll take that luck as we simply get through that gym leader. So now I think we're going straight down to Chuck's gym. Obviously, we resist fighting type moves, which is super important here. And against that Poliwrath, yet again, we're going to have access to Petal Dance, which could be the strategy that we need to actually get through. So I think we go Return on the Primeape there, and then into Petal Dance on just the Poliwrath in order to avoid the confusion, and we'll throw on a Mint Berry to avoid falling asleep. First though, we've got to get through the randos in the gym, so let's just get down there and see how the Black Belt bros actually go. Now, because Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan have higher special defense than defense, I think this is a spot to go Return, and sure enough, we get a 1-hitter on the Hitmonlee. So then will bring us now to the Hitmonchan, where we'll just try to go for this same strategy Pidgey. It's going to be a 2-hitter here, but really not an issue to get through that Pokemon. And with that, we're ready to take on the rest of the gym trainers who have lower special. I think Petal Dance will get the job done, and then it's just on to the gym leader himself. Sure enough, nothing poses any issues, so let's just get into the Chuck fight, where we've already got the Mint Berry on. That should be all that we need. Let's see how this goes. So Chuck attempt number 1, I'm going to drop Acid on the first Primeape. We did decent damage, and now Return should finish it off. He just used Leer, so nothing to worry about there. Now on the Poliwrath into the Petal Dance here, and we get the 1-hit KO, easily knocking that Pokemon out as we get to level 35. With that, we have defeated 6 gyms. We just have to be able to defeat Jasmine, and we could be cruising in this one, at least until the league, but I don't know. Claire might actually be hard here. I just think that Stab with a move like Sludge Bomb may give us the edge there in that fight. That's looking too far ahead though. Let's get into this Jasmine fight that could be really tough. We're just gonna have to find out. And here we are, ready to take on the gym leader. I took a couple of resets just due to some minor routing mistakes. I ran into some rando trainers while I was using Speed Up, so there are not actually any resets to this point. This Vileplume has been completely crushing it here, but now I think we have to go Paralyzed Cure Berry. I think that's our only way of actually getting through this next section. Let's see how this actually works against Jasmine. So first up, we have the Magnemite, and let's see what the damage ranges are with our different moves. Starting off with Petal Dance. It's resisted, but it is same type, and it does over half, so this is going to be a 2-hitter, and if we get a critical hit, it will just one-shot one of these Magnemites. We actually get Steelix to come out second though, so let's go Petal Dance here. We do over half. We get confused after the Petal Dance wears off, but we are able to knock it out the next turn. That brings out the final Magnemite. We hit the Petal Dance, it goes Sonic Boom because we were on low health. That is very interesting though, because that suggests that if we didn't hit ourselves in confusion, we actually could have won here. So let's get into this again and see how this goes. A Bitter Berry might actually be the solution to this fight. Here, when we get to Steelix, this time we're still using Petal Dance. We get a massive critical hit. She goes for the Hyper Potion as we are fully confused that turn. So we do still take 2 hits from the Iron Tail, and we are confused as we go to Magnemite, and it hits Sonic Boom again, so we do lose on this attempt. Still, a single critical hit might be all that we actually need in this fight, so I'm going to reset for that level of luck a couple times just to see. This time we don't hit ourselves in confusion, so we still have 73 HP as we go to the final Magnemite. We snap out of confusion. It does hit the Thunder Wave and now goes for the Sonic Boom. It's Sonic Booms again, and we hit ourselves in confusion. If we didn't hit ourselves in confusion so many times, we could have had that. So this time we get to the final Magnemite with 58 HP remaining, but the first Magnemite missed with its Thunder Wave, so we still have the Paralyzed Cure Berry. We hit the first Petal Dance, and we get a crit. So there we go. We managed to get through. It took 7 attempts on Jasmine. It's not pretty because of the fact that you can hit yourself in confusion. Like I said, a Bitter Berry might make that one more consistent than the Paralyzed Cure Berry, just because you could snap out of confusion once in the fight. But either way, it does work out with this Vileplume. So Tamonowo, you're moving on to the next section. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do against Claire. I do think that Sludge Bomb might become a strategy there, just because it is same type and it will be neutrally effective against those Dragonair, and then Petal Dance or the Sludge Bomb could be the play against that final Kingdra. We'll just have to see. But for now, you are moving on in the challenge. And now with those 3 Pokemon out of the way, we can say officially that one channel member did get through, though it was using an OPTM with Return, and we can say that the 2 bats are also in the OPTMs category, but they're kind of more in that category with the Pidgeot and the Fearow having to use rare candies to actually get through Jasmine, at least in the case of Golbat. But honestly, Crobat got lucky, otherwise it would have needed to drop rare candies too. So neither of those Pokemon are inspiring a lot of confidence, at least, even though they are still progressing. Now it's time to continue our roleplay as Koga though. Let's go ahead and get into the Venomoth run. And while I know that this Pokemon is a Dragon Psychic type and therefore will have some issues, it also is one of the greatest Pokemon to ever be made. So who knows? It might just completely crush this section. Let's get into it. So Venomoth is coming into this section with Return, Disable, Confusion, and Leech Life. Obviously, Leech Life is at least same type, and we will get Sludge Bomb as a same type move in this section. Disable also could be kind of interesting here. We could disable something like Iron Tail, but it may not give us that much of an advantage given that Steelix also knows Rock Throw, but at least Rock Throw will be a little bit weaker. Outside of that, again, this is a Pokemon that doesn't get a whole lot of TMs in this section of the game though, so we're really going to have to see how it goes. Now, we have already been to the lighthouse with this one, and it's just obvious to come here and take on the Rocket Hideout so that we can gain as many levels as possible before we have to go take on any of these gym leaders. Now, we do get to learn Stun Spore via level up while we're fighting against Jed here, and this could be a spot where Stun Spore over Disable does make sense, just to buy us 1 or 2 extra turns. Like I said, even if we use Disable against Iron Tail on that Steelix, it still has Rock Throw, which is a super effective move, so this might be the best play, to just go for the Stun Spore and hope that we can deal enough damage to get through there. Again, tell me if you think it's a mistake in the comments, but I'm gonna go with Stun Spore over Disable here to try to give myself some extra chances. Now, we did have one reset there against Jed because he got a lucky paralysis on us, and then we were paralyzed enough turns that he could simply knock us out. Second attempt though, we got through just fine, so I don't think we're going to have any major issues in this section. Let's get straight to the end. And with no other troubles in this section, we have made it to the final executive, so let's get into the fight and see how she goes. I think this is going to be pretty easy. We lead off, of course, against the Arbok, where we have Confusion, which is super effective. It's still a 2-hitter because it's not a same type move, but we get the job done. Murkrow comes out next, where we can just go for Return. This is going to be an easy 2-hit KO. Peck did less than half, so not really anything to worry about as we get to level 30. And now against the final Gloom, I actually think Return's going to do more just because it does have higher special defense, but actually not that high, so maybe we should have just gone for the Confusion there. Sure enough, Confusion gets the job done. We even had a Mint Berry on when it used Sleep Powder on us, so that was a very easy victory. But now the only gym leader that we actually have a super effective move against is going to be Chuck, since we do have that Confusion, and I'm not sure Confusion's actually going to be that good there. We're just going to kind of have to see. But for now, let's get into this and just find out. I'm going to put off learning Sludge Bomb until it's clear that we need it though, because obviously we've got Jasmine coming up soon. I'm just not super confident that we're going to be able to get through that by wasting one of our move slots. Still, while I would normally try Pryce here one time, I'm just going to go straight to Chuck because I think that is the best play. So first up, we've got to take on the 2 Black Belt bros. Let's just see how they go with the Confusion strats. I'm honestly not sure if Confusion or Return is better given their stats, but given that we have fairly close attack and defense, I actually think Return is the way to go here. Return is going to be a 2-hit KO. We can probably go Confusion after that to knock out Hitmonlee. Sure enough, it works, but now we have to take on the Hitmonchan as well, where I think we go Return just because their special defense is significantly higher. But in the case of Hitmonchan, the 2 stats are much closer, so maybe the Confusion is the better play. It does less than half though. Let's see what Return does. Return does get the KO, so Return is still stronger there against those Pokemon because of their higher special defense. Everything else though, I think we just go for Confusion and we should be able to get through. We actually level up, get to learn Gust. The question is, do we want to forget any move to learn Gust? Obviously, if we were actually a flying type, we would totally want this move, but I don't think we're going to learn it. I don't think it has enough value here. Again, tell me if you think that's a mistake in the comments, but I think I'm rocking with my moves as they are, because yes, I know that Leech Life isn't a super strong move, but it is at least a same type move here and heals us in battle. I think that's better than having a non-stab Gust on this Pokemon. And after we get through everything pretty easily in the gym, it's time for our first try at Chucky Boy. Let's see how he actually works out. He's going to lead off with the Primeape, of course. We're going to go straight for Confusion. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but he just leers, so that's perfectly fine. That now brings out the Poliwrath. Let's go for the Confusion here. He goes for Mind Reader. I'm going to try to paralyze him. Oh, we missed. and now he hits the sleep on us. We wake up and try to go for the stun spore again. Now we finally get it. Let's go now for the confusion. It's gonna be a 3-hit KO, and he even misses the hypnosis after mind reader. Good job, Chucky boy. We get an easy victory on that one. But with that done, that might be our only like super easy victory here. We're just gonna have to see. We currently don't have any good moves for Jasmine, which is what I'm most nervous about. And Sleep Powder doesn't come in until level 42, so we're gonna have to go with the moves that we currently have if we're actually gonna get through this. There just really isn't anything else to learn in this part of the game. So first things first, I'm gonna take on Pryce and just see if I can gain like an extra level here to hopefully help us out. Level 33 would cross through another damage rounding threshold, so that's, I think, the best case that we're gonna get against Jasmine herself. So here against Chuck, he leads off with the Seal, of course. I think our strongest move is just Return. It's still a 2-hitter as he goes Icy Wind, but we didn't take that much damage, so I think that's okay. Now on Dugong, it looks like this is a 3-hitter, but Aurora Beam is obviously not super effective, even though we're a Dragon type, funny enough. So we get through, we get to level 33. That brings out the Piloswine. It's going to be a 3-hitter. It goes Mist turn 1. He goes Blizzard turn 2. Now we Hyper Potions. We're going to need to dodge one Blizzard, I think, and we simply weren't able to do so. So this might be a spot where Paralysis is actually meaningful or useful, just because of the fact that it could buy us that one additional turn. So we get back to Piloswine on the next attempt, where I'm just going to go for the Stun Spore. It's fully paralyzed turn 1. It goes Fury Attack turn 2. It's fully paralyzed turn 3, and that allows us to get the victory. So it's not great, but hey, we do manage to get through Pryce at our current level just on the second attempt. But now we have to go take on what I think is a nightmare gym. It's time for Jasmine. So it's time for Jasmine attempt number 1, and I really want to see what the range is here against this Magnemite. So we're going to go Return, and we see that we do less than half as we get paralyzed. It goes for Supersonic after that, and once it's got us confused and paralyzed, now the Thunderbolts come in and we're simply going down. So let's go in once with the Paralyzed Cure Berry just to see if maybe we can get lucky against one of the Magnemites with Thunder Wave strats. I also do think we should at least paralyze these Pokemon to give them a chance to be fully paralyzed. That at least gives us a chance of getting through. It's not a great looking chance, but we still managed to get through right there. Out comes the Steelix. It misses the first Iron Tail. And now let's see what Return does. Oh, it does nothing. Oh, we did a grand total of 8 damage there. Let's see what Confusion does instead. This did significantly more damage. So while it is resisted, Confusion is the strongest play here, but we just get 2-shot by the Iron Tail. So that is not going to work. This time, however, we managed to get the Steelix with no status on. We can now paralyze it. It misses an Iron Tail. Let's see if we can also get it to be confused. It does not work out, and we simply go down. So now the question is, what else could we possibly do? Obviously, Sludge Bomb is not a strategy here. Rest is not available until after we win this fight. Steelix is a male, so there's no chance that we could go for Attract strats here even if we wanted to. So yeah, we're kind of at a loss other than to start slamming rare candies. And because we're doing nowhere near enough damage, I think we're probably going to have to use all of them. Let's go to level 35 first just to see how it works out, but this is probably not enough. At this level, we're still doing less than half to the first Magnemite. We'd really like to get to the point where we're doing half to it so that we could at least have a better chance of actually knocking that Pokemon out. We are now taking less than half damage from the first Iron Tail. It will still take multiple turns if we're going to actually get through there, though. He's going to have to be paralyzed quite a few turns for us to actually get this to go. So I don't think that's quite enough. Let's go up another few levels. Here at level 36, we get to learn Psybeam, which is stronger than Confusion. It's not a lot stronger, but still it is an upgrade. But I'm going to go all the way up to level 38 here just to see how this works. So at level 38 now, Return is going to be a 2-hit KO on the first first Magnemite, it goes Thunderbolt. Oh, we just barely missed the range though. We'll use Leech Life to finish that one off, but that's not looking pretty. Here, once again, we miss our Stun Spore on this Steelix. We really need to hit that. And now Psybeam is at least doing more damage. It's doing 18 damage there. We get a nice Iron Tail miss. We could even get Confusion here, but this is definitely not working so far. Let's see if we get a better range on this Magnemite though. We do manage to get the 2-hit KO on this attempt. It did 1 Thunderbolt on us. We now land the Stun Spore as we get an Iron Tail. Psybeam, Iron Tail simply knocks us out after that. Now the 2-hit KO on the Magnemite is a range here, so we do have to get a little bit lucky to actually get it to go. This time we get a nice Iron Tail miss from the Steelix. Now it does hit an Iron Tail and lower our defense, and it simply doesn't stay paralyzed enough turns. There is still a chance to get Confusion with the Psybeam though, which is what I'm resetting for. I want to at least get one run where we actually confuse the Steelix just to see what that does to the ranges. This time we get a ton of Iron Tail misses before it finally hits and knocks me out. We had it all the way down to 6 HP, but she was going to use a Hyper Potion there, so we were probably going to get wrecked either way. Still, that's getting closer to the luck that we would need to get through. It's still just not quite there though. So we're down to using the last rare candy that's in the bag to get to level 39, but I'm not sure that that one level is going to make any difference here. Maybe it makes the Magnemite more consistent, but honestly, this is looking like it's going to be impossible. This time we do get Steelix to be fully paralyzed turn 1 though. Then it hits a crit. Are you kidding me? Obviously, we're basically just dead at this point unless we get crazy luck, and we don't, so we lose. And after tons of attempts, I'm just ready to call it. Venomoth just does not have the moves to actually get through here. If that Stun Spore was a Sleep Powder instead, this would be a cakewalk. We would be through in no issues whatsoever. But honestly, we don't have anything better here. I mean, Hidden Power Dark is just going to be 5 points in power stronger than Psybeam, and we just don't have any other moves to use at this point. Swift won't save us, Thief won't save us, Solar Beam isn't available yet, nor is Giga Drain, and the fact that Sludge Bomb is completely ineffective here means that there are just no other options to even try. Venomoth is eliminated. So we are now up to 3 Pokemon being eliminated by Jasmine. Even after slamming the rare candies with these ones, they are simply not progressing in the game, and it tells us that we're at least back to a point where we're gonna lose some Pokemon, and actually some kind of legit Pokemon. Venomoth was the second ever Pokemon that I did in Gen 1, where I beat the game on minimum battles with 0 DVs and with no TMs. That's how good this Pokemon was in Gen 1, and in Gen 2, it does not manage to get through Jasmine, so it can't even get to the league. That is a massive fall from grace in one generation. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. And honestly, it kind of proves that Koga is the pretender when it comes to the Gen 2 Elite Four. He feels like the trainer to me that doesn't actually have any Pokemon that could legitimately reach that point in the game on minimum battles. Every other member of the Elite Four, I think, has at least one Pokemon that will actually make it to the league and make it up against their counterpart. But things are not looking good for Koga right now. And I'm just willing to place my money down right now that all of Koga's Pokemon are effectively eliminated before we actually get to him. But tell me what you think down below. Anyway, with that done, let's get to Dugtrio and see how he does in this section, now that we'll actually have a Pokemon that has some super effective moves against Jasmine. So here with Dugtrio, we're coming in with Magnitude, Dig, Sand Attack, and Tri Attack, so we at least have a normal type move as coverage with status to go together with our ground type moves. This one might not be too bad, but I am definitely going to go to the Rocket Hideout. It's basically just the standard at this point, because I think this is what we're actually going to need to progress in the game. And of course, outside of the random low roll on Magnitude, basically everything is a one-hit KO in the entire Rocket Hideout, so we can simply make our way to the final Rocket Executive here, where she's going to lead off with Arbok. We'll go Magnitude. We get a Magnitude 6 and it's still one-shots. That will bring out Gloom. Magnitude is neutrally effective there. It doesn't quite do as much as I would have liked since we got a kind of low roll on that one. We even got a second low roll, but then we knock it out in 3 hits. We get to level 30. As the Murkrow comes out, we'll go Tri Attack since it's our only move here, and we get the easy 2-hit KO on that Pokemon. So really just no issues in that entire section. But now I think we need to make our way straight to Jasmine. She is of course the only gym leader where we do have an advantage with Dugtrio here, and I think that that's going to be our best chance of getting through the other two. Obviously, I think Jasmine is first, then we go to Chuck's gym so that we can fight the other randos and get more levels. Pryce is the one that we're going to have to see if we're survivable enough with the legendary Whack-A-Mole to actually get through. So let's just try our first attempt at Jasmine. I'm not even going in with a held item. Let's just see if Magnitude and Dig are enough here. First up, of course, we've got the Magnemite. We go Magnitude, get a 6, and that's an easy one-hitter. Out comes the second Magnemite, which also just gets easily one-shot. That brings us to Steelix. I'm sticking with Magnitude. We get a Magnitude 7 with a critical hit. Goes for the Iron Tail there, and then we get a Magnitude 10 to just knock it out in 2 turns. We get to level 31 as we beat Jasmine. She never really stood a chance there. Now, it could have been a different story if she had actually hit Iron Tail, or if we had, maybe gotten a few lower rolls on our Magnitudes against the Steelix, but ultimately I would expect that to be a pretty consistent fight most of the time with this Pokemon. But now with that done, let's make our way into Chucky Boy's gym and just see how we do against the randos. Hopefully we can gain a level before we get to the leader himself, and we're just gonna have to see what the ranges look like when we get to that Poliwrath. That's the Pokemon obviously that could ruin this entire section of the game. Still, we get to Chucky Boy nice and easy, so it's just time to find out if we can beat him at level 32. So Chuck leads off with the Primeape, of course. I'm going to give it a Magnitude. We get a Magnitude 6 right here, and then we get a Magnitude 8, and we just took a single Leer there, so nothing to worry about so far. Now it's time for the Poliwrath. We could go for Tri Attack to try to get status on it, or we can just go all in on attack and hope that it doesn't surf every single turn. I'm going to try the Magnitude first. We get a Magnitude 7 turn 1, a Magnitude 5 turn 2, then it hits the Hypnosis. There's really nothing we can do as it goes into Dynamic Punch. Still, it's interesting to see that it's not just going Surf on us. I'm going to take the opportunity to put on a Mint Berry just to see, because maybe that allows us to get through. The next attempt, we just again get an easy 2-hitter on Primeape as it just goes for a single Leer on us. We get a Magnitude 7 this time, then we get a Dynamic Punch from the Poliwrath, and we knock ourselves out in confusion. The next attempt, it goes for Mind Reader right here. I'm going to give it a Tri Attack just to see what it does. It still looks like Tri Attack is getting a pretty decent range, and once it misses one more Hypnosis, we actually win. So it only took a few attempts to get through Chucky Boy there. He really wasn't that bad to get through. And with that done, we just have Pryce remaining, and the question is just how much damage do we actually do there? We could be in a bad spot due to the weakness that we have to Ice-type moves, but at the same time, if we could just get the right rolls with our Magnitude, we might be able to win. So it's time for our first shot at Chucky Boy. Let's see how he goes. So against the Seal, I'm going to go for Magnitude. We got a very low roll on the first one, but then we get a Magnitude 10 to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Dugong. We get Magnitude 5, really not what we wanted to see there. But then again, we get a high roll and knock it out on the next turn. That brings us to the final Piloswine, where again, we get a low roll and we didn't do nearly enough damage. Let's try this again. So here, Dig at least will be a one-hit KO on the Seal with a crit, which is kind of good to know. Against the Dugong, it's more like a 3-hit KO, so we definitely do want a good Magnitude there on that Pokemon. Against Piloswine, it may be worthwhile to go for Sand Attack just to reduce Blizzard's accuracy, and then we get a nice Magnitude 10. He Hyper Potions here, follow up with a Magnitude 7. Just gonna see what Tri Attack does. We get a nice burn on this Pokemon, and we get to knock it out after that. So Sand Attack strats on the Piloswine are the way to go, since Blizzard is only 70% accurate, and we can drop that even more with a single Sand Attack. That's all it took to actually get through this with Dugtrio. Only took a few attempts. So yet again, is it perfectly consistent? No, but it is reasonable to get through with a Dugtrio, and you're not even going for any broken OPTMs here. Just a little bit of accuracy strats. That's it. So Dugtrio becomes the first Pokemon to really legitimately pass this section in this episode, which is kind of cool to see. We can now see that Dugtrio is at least officially better than Koga. But now it's time to check in on Giovanni's favorite Pokemon. Let's see that Persian and see how it does in this section. And Persian here is rocking Bite, Growl, Headbutt, and Payday. We do learn things like Icy Wind and Mud Slap, so we do at least have some coverage that can be used against Jasmine, but nothing that's really great here. So I'm honestly not sure how this is going to go. I expect to replace Payday with the Mud Slap, just because it's literally our only effective move there. But even then, that might not be enough to actually get us through this section. I'm a little nervous, to be perfectly honest. Take Giovanni's pet cat and see if we can beat up enough Team Rocket members at least to give it a slight chance of getting through Jasmine. And after destroying Team Rocket, Persian proves why it is Giovanni's favorite, and we're just gonna beat up on the last executive with our kitty cat. She of course leads off with the Arbok. We go straight for the Headbutt here. It's gonna be a 2-hit KO. Let's get some Payday action on even. As we get to level 29, we can level up and learn Feint Attack, which I think I'm going to put on over Bite just because it's a priority move, and I think that's kind of okay. Still, we're not going to really be too excited to use it. As the Gloom comes out, I'll just stick with the Headbutt instead. It puts me to sleep, but I think when we wake up, we can just even use Payday to take this Pokemon down. That is if we wake up, though. We actually never do, so we lose the first attempt. Next try, we're getting back to the Gloom, though. Let's just see how we do this time. It goes Sweet Scent first, obviously trying to set up, but we just knock it out after that. Murkrow comes out. We still have a couple of headbutts, but we're easily going to get through on the second attempt. We even Payday just to get a little extra money. So very nice. Still, it is kind of sad that we lost to the executive once with Giovanni's main Pokemon. So yeah, we're going to have to see if we can manage to get a little redemption after this. And really, Pryce is the only gym that we can go to where we don't feel bad, because Chuck's gym is really going to love punching our cat, which is terrible to think about. And then Jasmine, we just don't have any good moves against her. So let's just come in here and see if Pryce is possible at our current level, or are we going to have to go try to get lucky somewhere else? Pryce attempt number 1, he leads off with the Seal. I'm just going to put Headbutt in the top slot, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO, and we even flinch Seal there, so no problems on that one. Dugong looks to be a 3-hitter here, and it does hit a couple of Aurora Beams, but we do take it down as we get to level 30. That brings out the Piloswine. We'll go for the Headbutt. We get a nice flinch. Then it misses a Blizzard. Now he Hyper Potions because he's scared about the ranges here. He flinches again though, and that is all we needed. Pryce goes down on the first attempt. And now Icy Wind, while it's not a strong move, could be something that we try to use against the Steelix. It will be at least neutrally effective, and against that lower special stat on that Pokemon, which is the main reason I'd use it. We just don't really have any better moves at that point than that or Mud Slap, but Mud Slap is up against the higher defense stat, which is the reason why it's not usually actually that good against the Steelix outside of the accuracy strats. But first, we've got to go up through the lighthouse and meet up with Jasmine before we go down to see Chuck. So we may gain like 1 additional level while we're in here. It's not going to be a massive change, but it may make it a little bit easier to get through the Black Belt Bros. So here, let's just get into Chuck's gym and try these randos at least, because if we can gain more levels before either of the gym leaders, that's gonna be the way to go. The Black Belt Bros give us a slight advantage in the fact that they have lower defense and we're mainly a physical attacker. So Headbutt is gonna get a 2-hitter on Hitmonlee with a flinch, so we get through with no damage on that. And now Hitmonchan knows no fighting type moves, so we should be able to get through these first 2 trainers nice and easy, and it's on through the rest of the gym. Still, I'm gonna save between every single trainer because we just have a reasonable risk of getting knocked out by karate chops here. Still, we do manage to get through to Chuck with no resets in this gym, so let's just see if we can beat Chucky Boy himself. We're banking on some mind reader hypnosis nonsense, so I think the Mint Berry is the only way to go here. Let's see if it's enough. So Primeape is out first. We're gonna go Headbutt. We do outspeed, and it misses a Leer. That's actually a 25% chance for that move to miss. because of the way the Gen 2 AI is made. So we just two-shot there, allowing us to get to the Poliwrath. I'm going to go for the Headbutt. We did decent damage. It didn't manage to actually hit the first Hypnosis. And this looks to be a 3-hitter with Headbutt. So we simply get through when he goes Mind Reader turn 2. He just never had a chance when he doesn't actually go for Dynamic Punch, but he also only has a 50-50 shot of hitting Dynamic Punch, which is why I don't think Chuck's actually going to wall that much. If anything, it's going to be the trainers before him that wall something. Just my opinion, but who knows? Maybe I could be wrong. There could be a Pokemon that's like 4 times weak to water that does end up getting wrecked there. Still, Persian has made it to Jasmine, and if we can get through her, this Pokemon will move on to the second Rocket section, where it will get a stunt on Giovanni's disciples and perhaps prove why it was his favorite Pokemon. But here against Jasmine, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to go into the pack, and let's make sure that we just throw Mud Slap on immediately, since that's going to be our main strategy here. I'm going to learn that over Payday, since we've already got Headbutt, and obviously Headbutt's just a better move in every way, shape, and form. But now let's just see how this actually goes against Jasmine herself. So first up, we've got the Magnemite. We're going to go Mud Slap here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but it misses a Thunder Wave, so very nice. Second Magnemite comes out. We get a critical hit, so we just barely missed the one-shot, but we can do anything to knock it out from there. That brings out Steelix, where now the strategy is to Mud Slap until its accuracy is completely shot. Then I think we can even give it some growls here, just to reduce its attack power. And with everything set up, now I'm going to go into the Headbutt here, which isn't going to be super strong. Now it did manage to land a Screech on me, so I think we go even harder on the Growl just to make sure that we don't take as much damage from the Iron Tail when it hits. She does manage to hit an Iron Tail there, which was not ideal. And we can see Headbutt does like nothing here. So while we can occasionally flinch this Pokemon, we're just not dealing very much damage. And once it does land the Iron Tail, we simply go down. So here I think is where we even think about going for Icy Wind, just because it is neutrally effective there. For now, I'm actually going to throw it on over Growl. I think this is the best play. We basically want to go accuracy strats, and then we're just hoping that Icy Wind does decent enough damage there against the Steelix to allow us to get through. So we get back to the Steelix this time, and once again, I am going for the Mud Slaps. It looks like it's a range to two-shot us with the Iron Tail, so we're going to have to get quite a bit of luck there with the accuracy, but still, this one might just be possible. So now with all the Mud Slaps set up, let's just see what Icy Wind actually does here. It has 47 HP before we attack, and we did 21 damage. So this would be a 5-hit KO with this move, but that's way better than what we were doing with the Headbutt. So this is clearly the best play that we can get right here without going for something more overpowered. So a few attempts later, we once again managed to get all the accuracy drops, and we're back to using the Icy Wind. She's going to Hyper Potion here, of course, when she's on low health, but that is one turn that she cannot hit us after that. Still, she manages to take us down when it would have taken at least 2 more hits to knock out this Steelix. So this could honestly be a spot where we'd rather have something like a berry on our Persian, with the logic being that we could just heal a little bit of damage against that Steelix depending on the damage range that we get, because with the Mud Slap strats, it doesn't actually take that much luck to get through the 2 Magnemites without the paralysis. It's certainly reasonable enough that we could reset for that level of luck, since we're also lowering their accuracy at the same time that we're damaging them. So sure enough, we can get through just fine. We're still setting up all the accuracy drops on the Steelix, obviously, but we're just doing this so that maybe, just maybe, we can survive 2 Iron Tails here. So here we heal with the berry, and now we're going into our Icy Winds, but it does get the range to still knock us out on that one. It got a kind of high damage roll on the first Iron Tail there though, so I don't feel too bad about that one. I still want to test this a little more. A few attempts later, we are against this Steelix with all the accuracy drops on, but on low health. We need 2 more hits, and it finally hits the Iron Tail, the last chance it had before we would have knocked it out. Obviously, a crit there would help an awful lot against that Steelix, so we're still just resetting for a little bit of luck here. A couple attempts later though, we finally get it. Steelix does go down to the Icy Winds. It's just a matter of getting a run where you get enough misses from the Iron Tail, and really the berry does help because it it does give you that chance to potentially survive one additional turn, and that's what it actually takes to get through there. Is it pretty? No, but Icy Wind plus Mud Slap is enough to get the job done, and at least for the next gym against the Dragonairs, Icy Wind will be super effective, so it's not a completely wasted move here, but we're gonna have to see how this actually goes later on. We're gonna learn Screech is our next level up move, then Fury Swipes, then Slash. Obviously, if we can get to Slash in the late game, we're at least going to have one of our best moves there for the league, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be enough. We'll just have to see, but for now, Persian does move on. So with Persian jumping up into the pass column, I'm now going to jump ahead a little bit. I'm going to go to the Primeape and we'll look at all of our water types. Like, yes, I know Lanturn is a water electric type versus Golduck being a pure water type, but we'll still look at those two kind of head to head and then look at their unevolved forms, CheenChou and Psyduck, which I think will just be a lot of fun. So let's just get Primeape out of the way right now. I actually think Primeape is one of the easiest and most straightforward Pokemon in this section of the game. We come into this section knowing Dig, Karate Chop, Headbutt, and Rage. I think this is a perfectly legitimate set of moves for this Pokemon. Karate Chop with the higher critical hit chance is going to be pretty OP. Dig will give us some nice coverage for those Magnemites on Jasmine's team if we prefer to just use that to conserve some of our Karate Chop PP, and since it is 4 times super effective. And then, you know, Headbutt, Rage give us just strategies to get through other Pokemon in this section. Obviously, elemental punches are also available. If we beat Chuck, we get dynamic punch, which we could use, but I honestly don't think we're going to need to upgrade moves very much in this section. Now, I could learn focus energy, but I decided not to. I'd rather just keep Rage as a move that can build up, and I don't think I want to forget any of the rest of my moves here. And sure enough, Primeape completely destroys all of the rockets. So we've made it to the final executive where we can basically do anything, but I think we Dig against the first Arbok. It's not quite a one-hitter. We just missed the range. Let's use Rage to finish it off. We get to level 29 right there. Murkrow comes out. It's neutrally affected by Karate Chop, so let's just do it. Easy victory. And Headbutt on the Gloom is a one-hitter, at least with the crit, so we easily win that fight. And now I think we go straight to Pryce. We have a super effective same type move against 2 of his Pokemon, and it's not like Seal's that scary to us, so I think we're gonna have a pretty easy time getting through. So let's try to prove to Pryce that he should have been the 5th gym leader and Chuck should be promoted. Obviously, this guy just really needs to retire, but let's just see. Maybe he shows us that he still has a little bit left in the tank, but I don't think so. Let's go Karate Chop on the Seal. It's almost a one-hitter with the crit. We'll just headbutt it down from there. Dugong is out next. We go Karate Chop. It's going to be a 2-hit KO here, but Aurora Beam didn't do that much. We easily get through and get to level 30. That brings out the Piloswine. We go Karate Chop. We do half. It tries to Fury Attack, and we just knock it out on the next turn. So definitely Pryce, he needs a demotion at the very least. I think he needs to be maybe just after Morty. You know, he can join that category of gym leaders that just get swept by everything. You know, at least Chuck is putting in a little bit of work here. Obviously, Jasmine should have been the 7th gym leader. That's just my personal opinion. But I think it's an opinion that like 99.99% of Gen 2 players agree with, because Pryce is just that bad. And we even stunted on Pryce without having even cleared out the lighthouse in the previous section. So now that we come back here and just easily destroy these Pokemon, we'll even gain another level before we go down to Chucky Boy's gym. But I think we do Chuck last. Honestly, Jasmine, she's got a weakness to us, so I think we just go and stunt on her too. I think that's going to be the most fun way to get through this. So we will of course deliver the secret potion to her, and let's come into the gym and just show Jasmine for once a Pokemon that she really doesn't want to fight against. Of course, she's going to lead off with the Magnemite. Let's just go for Karate Chop here. It's an easy one-hit KO. Second Magnemite comes out and gets completely destroyed. That brings out the Steelix. Karate Chop here did not do as much as I would have hoped. 26 damage, but that should still be a 4-hit KO. Iron Tail did massive damage back to us. Still, it misses the next Iron Tail, and if we could just get a critical hit here, we would have just knocked it out from there. Instead, she Hyper Potions. She misses another Iron Tail though, and another one, so we win on the first attempt because she just refuses to hit her move. So hey, we'll take that. Primeape plot armor here as we completely destroy Jasmine on the first attempt in a victory that I really don't think was very well earned. Still, if we had lost there, we could have just come here to do Chuck's gym, taken on these randos, and beating Chuck would power up our fighting type moves, so it would be the way to go. For now though, let's get into this fight against the Black Belt Bros, where I think we stick with Karate Chop. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on the Hitmonlee, and it misses, so we get a nice easy victory on that one. That brings out the Hitmonchan next, where we're just going to stick with the same strategy. Karate Chop is an easy 2-hit KO right there, as it just goes Fire Punch. And now we should be able to get through the rest of the randos and make our way to Chucky Boy. So I'm going to go ahead and give a Mint Berry as we get into the Chuck fight, just in case he goes for that Hypnosis. But let's see how this fight actually works out. So Chuck attempt number 1, I'm actually going to go for Rage at the beginning, because I think this could be a strat, especially because he likes to go for Fury Swipes here. A 5-hit Fury Swipes powers up Rage massively. As we go to the Poliwrath, Rage does over half, and we just get an easy 2-hit KO as we get to level 34. So yeah, Chuck played right into my hands with that Fury Swipes. Clearly the wrong play against this Primeape. So we add Primeape to the winners column, bringing us up to an even 30 Pokemon, successfully getting through this section of the game without OPTMs, without struggle strats. They have completed 7 of the 8 Johto gyms, and we still have a bunch of first stage Pokemon up there, which is insane to me. And in some ways, it tells us just how much easier Johto is than Kanto. I mean, yes, you could get a lot of Pokemon through on minimum battles in Kanto if you just go the double team substitute strats, but we're not using any of that here, and we're still seeing a lot of weak Pokemon still progress in the game. When you add on the 8 Pokemon that are in the pass with OPTMs category, I mean, we're still putting in some pretty good work here in this section of the game. But now it's time to look at our last 2 challengers. Of course, we've got Golduck and Lanturn, and then we'll look at the member picks that are their unevolved forms. So let's get into that and round out this episode. So I decided to lead off with Lanturn here because it has been one of the worst Pokemon up to this point in the game. But in theory, this Pokemon could actually turn out to be pretty good now. It has Thunder already, Thunder Wave, Surf, Return. I mean, we're rocking a great moveset. So the only thing that will hold us back is that slow level group. Still, I think that with Surf and Thunder, we're going to be able to get through everything, because against every major opponent other than Chuck's Primeape, we actually have a super effective move, and we have same type attack bonuses in those moves. So this might finally be Lanturn's turn to shine. Let's find out. But first, I do think we need more levels, so let's make our way to the Rocket Hideout. I think there are a few Pokemon that could progress without going here first. Like, definitely Pokemon that have super effective moves against both Chuck and Jasmine, which would include this Lanturn, but just because of the slow level up group, I want to play it kinda safe here. And as usual, the Rocket Hideout is a complete joke, so we just take on the final executive, where we should have a pretty easy victory here. I think our moves are just way too strong for this point in the game. Of course, she leads off with Arbok. I'm gonna go Thunder, since it is the strongest move. We get Paralysis, very nice. Return will just knock it out after that. That brings out the Gloom, where our best move is to just go Return. This looks like it might be even a 3-hit KO though, just due to the fact that we don't have a great attack stat here. But finally we get Murkrow. If we just hit Thunder, that's a 1-hitter, and we get to level 28 right there as we defeat that executive. So no problems so far, and I think I'm gonna go straight to Pryce in this one, since we have super effective moves against all 3 Pokemon, and he doesn't know any ground type moves with Piloswine, so I think it's gonna be super easy. So Pryce attempt number 1, let's just see how he actually goes. He's gonna lead off with the Seal, of course. I'm just gonna go Thunder right here, and we do get the 1-hit KO. That brings out Dugong second, where I can stick with Thunder. It's a 2-hitter here, so I'll go for Return just to finish it off from there. And finally, Piloswine comes out. We can go Surf, which is 100% accurate. Still gonna be a 2-hitter, but he goes Blizzard, which isn't very effective, and then he can only go for the Hyper Potion, so we're guaranteed to win after that. So very, very easy win against Pryce as we get to level 29. We're ready to move on in the game, where honestly Jasmine should be easier than Chuck in this one, but it may not matter because we do have the Thunder for the Poliwrath, plus Chuck is just so random. So really if we struggle with anything, it's going to be the Black Belt bros, but that's just because the special defense of their Pokemon is actually decent in this generation, which I guess is kind of a good thing. Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee finally have like a niche amongst fighting type Pokemon by being special tanks. Otherwise, they would basically be just an afterthought again in Gen 2. Still, I'm going to come in here and just try to take them on because if I get through this gym, I know that Jasmine's not going to be too bad. So let's just see how it actually goes. First up against the Hitmonlee here, I'm going to go Return since it has lower defense than special defense. And it is an easy 2-hit KO on Yoshi there. So now we have to try to get through the Hitmonchan, where I'm just going to stick with the Return strat, but this is going to be a 3-hitter. Might even be worth going for Thunder Wave. We get Paralysis there, but then I get a miss. I tried to go Thunder just to get a better range, but then it goes Ice Punch and Punts to give us the win. Oh, Lau, you need to study a little bit more about type effectiveness, buddy. Clearly, he does not even have Gen 1 Smart AI. So with that, I think we just crush the rest of these Pokemon, so let's make our way straight to Chucky Boy and see if we can manage to get through. And with no difficulties against the rest of the Black Belts, we're clearly whatever comes after Black, which I heard in reality is supposed to be that you go back to having a White Belt, but correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, we have made it to Chucky Boy, and let's just see how he likes it when we come here with an electric water Pokemon. So first up, he has the Primeape. I'm going to go Surf here, and I believe this is a 2-hit KO. Sure enough, it is. It goes Fury Swipes, which isn't scary at all. And now we have the Poliwrath. The only play is to go Thunder and hope it hits, and that is a 1-hit KO, so we easily get through Chuck on the first attempt. And now we can go talk to his wife, get the Fly HM, and make our way back over to Jasmine. So now we're ready to go take on Jasmine, and let's just see if we get the first attempt victory here. I'm feeling pretty confident at this point based on the results of the last couple gyms. I'm going to go Surf on the Magnemite. That is a 1-hit KO as we get to level 31. Second Magnemite comes out, and we also knock it out, and that brings out Steelix. It's probably going to want to go Sunny Day to reduce the power of our Surfs, but I'm just going to go with this for now. I mean, I could go and get access to Rain Dance, but I don't think I need it. She's going to Hyper Potion, and we resist Iron Tail anyway, so what's she going to do? Rock Throw? Easy victory. 3 hits after the Sunny Day, but it does not matter. Jasmine goes down easily on the first attempt, and that is just a nice change of pace with this Pokemon. We have spent the entire Minimum Battles series with Lanturn up to this point, basically struggling to get through every single gym, considering that its starting attacking move was only Bubble that didn't really help us that much against Falkner. But now finally at this point, we're actually rocking strong enough moves that we just sweep through all of the gyms with no issues. Now this may be a little bit short-lived because next up is Claire and we're not really going to be able to use any super effective moves there. So we might get walled yet again just due to our slow level up group. But for now, Lanturn does move on. Let's check in on Golduck. And Golduck comes into this section with another very interesting moveset: Confusion, Surf, Fury Cutter, and Dig. So a lot of coverage here, including the Stab Surf that should help us an awful lot against Jasmine. But the Confusion could also help us an awful lot when we get to Chuck. So in theory, this is another Pokemon that's really not going to be bad through this section. Pryce is in theory the hardest of the gym leaders, but I'm not sure he's actually ever going to be hard. So I feel pretty confident coming into this one. In fact, as a test, I think I'm just going to go try Chuck first, since we do have these super effective Confusion that might make that gym fairly trivial. Because in theory, going to Chuck first is the most efficient route through the game. So honestly, one of these days, I may do a separate series where we try Pokemon only playing, quote unquote, as Game Freak intended by going through the gyms in their proper order, just because I think that would be actually really, really interesting. We would see a lot more Pokemon fall off, I think, if they had to take on Jasmine before Pryce, for example. Golbat was getting through, for example, in that case, at least not without all of the rare candies. But for now, we're going to bring Golduck into the gym here, and I think Confusion is the play, but it really didn't do that much against this Hitmonlee. Surf does significantly more, so Surf is the actual best play to get through there. And with that, we have to fight the back-to-back battle where we now take on Hitmonchan, and of course it's smart enough here to use Thunder Punch and knocks us out in 2 hits. So we're going to need a little bit more luck to actually get through here, but I do want to see what happens if we just go Surf twice. Okay, Surf does less than half. Let's see what Dig does as a physical move. It also does an awful lot, but we're on low health yet again going to the Hitmonchan. This time we do get a 2-hit KO range with Surf though, so with 1 HP remaining, we did beat the Black Belt Bros. Now obviously if we struggled there, we could have gone to the Rocket Hideout, or we could have gone to take on Jasmine first, but hey, I'll take this result. Let's just make our way through the rest of the gym here. So it's time for Chucky Boy attempt number 1. Let's see if we can get the victory. We've got the Mint Berry on already. We actually didn't use it in the previous section against Morty, so I think this is the perfect item. And on turn 1, we confused the Primeape as we hit it with Confusion, so we're going to get through that Pokemon with no damage taken. That brings out the Poliwrath, which we of course outspeed. Confusion got it down to 69 HP. Very nice. And it also becomes confused and hits itself in Confusion turn 1. He stays confused, but turn 2 he misses Hypnosis and we knock him out on turn 3. So it was a very easy victory against Chuck. He never even damaged our Pokemon. And with that done, we can come talk to his wife, get access to Fly, and now it's time to go take on Jasmine in this 100% Nintendo approved Golduck run. So Jasmine attempt number 1, she leads off of course with Magnemite. I can go Dig, which is going to be 4 times super effective, so I don't even have to guess if the ranges are there with Surf. Dig is the simple solution for these Pokemon. After that, Steelix does come out, and this is the spot for Surf, of course, as a super effective special move that just one-shots. So very easy victory on Jasmine, and we get the Mineral Badge. Let's boost those defenses, and finally, we're going to make our way over to Mahogany and actually do the Rocket Hideout. So the difference here between most of our runs is that we come in here already having 6 badges, so Team Rocket better turn and run because we're actually a lot stronger than we normally would be. And here the wide type coverage of this Golduck basically means it has a good move for everything in this section, so we've made it to the final executive once again with no issues, and I think we have all the moves we need to make her really easy. It starts with the Arbok, of course, where we can go Confusion here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but it just goes Leer, so no problem there. That brings out Gloom, where we can really do anything, but I'm going to just stick with Confusion. It'll be an easy 2-hitter even after Absorb. And finally, we get the Murkrow. We don't have anything super effective here, but Surf is a plenty strong move. Just get a 1-hit KO on that Pokemon. And just like that, we can now make our way to the final gym leader in this section, Pryce. And I would be hard-pressed to think of a single Pokemon that beats Jasmine easily but doesn't get through Pryce easily, at least with their normal movesets. That Earthquake Gligar from a few weeks ago was kind of an exception there. But I don't think Golduck's gonna have any issues, so let's get straight into this fight and hopefully just beat up Pryce again, taking him one step closer to retirement. So Pryce leads off with the Seal, of course, and I'm gonna take this opportunity to just start building up Fury Cutter, because if we build up this move nice and strong, we should just be able to one-shot from here on out. Dugong comes out next and just gets 1-hit KO'd by the built-up Fury Cutter. We stick with the same on the Piloswine. No need to even go Surf there, as we get the easy victory on Pryce, and we get the Glacier Badge, and we're ready to move on in the game. Golduck felt super easy in this section, so it makes me really interested how Psyduck's gonna do. But before we get to that, I'm gonna check in on CheenChou, or as channel member StarDF decided to name it, CheenChou. Let's see how it actually goes. And of course, CheenChou is coming in knowing Thunder, Surf, Confuse Ray, and Return. We have learned all of the strongest moves here, and because of our low stats, I do think we need all the levels. Even with the strongest moves, I'm just not confident in this Pokemon based on how the last few sections have gone, but who knows, this might be CheenChou's chance to shine. Now, of course, CheenChou completely crushed everything down here. It had no issues, and we're ready to take on the final executive. So here against the Arbok, I'm going to go Surf since it's one of our strongest strongest same type moves. We get poisoned by a Poison Sting, which is kind of terrible because Gloom is coming out next, and this will not be a one-hit KO on this Pokemon no matter what we do. In fact, it's a 3-hitter. We're taking decent damage from Absorb as well, which is a little nerve-wracking, but we do manage to get the 3-hit KO. And now on the Murkrow, we just have to hit Thunder, and we do get the victory on the first attempt. Of course, having low stats is a little bit of a hindrance, but when you're a channel member like StarDF, you always get through in the end. Except for, of course, Wooper. That is the only channel member pick that we've lost so far. Big apologies to DAD Oh Gosh and his Wooper. But now that we've defeated that section, I'm ready to come into Pryce's gym. Since we have super effective moves against everything, let's see if we get through as easily as Lanturn did with our CheenChou. Against Seal, of course, I go for Thunder. That is an easy one-hit KO. Dugong comes out next. We land Thunder here. We get a 2-hit range here, but I'm just going to go for Return. And ooh, Return did not knock it out as it goes for Rest. Still, we have 69 HP, so it's basically guaranteed that we win this one. We'll just do 2 Thunders this time. Sure enough, we get to level 29 as Piloswine comes up, but that does mess up our HP stat a little bit. So we have to go for Surf to get revenge on the game, but it just goes for Blizzard. So we get the easy victory right there against Pryce. He never stood a chance. And we get the badge boost and special attack at least, so our special moves will be a little bit stronger as we go into the next 2 gyms. But with that done, I think we're ready to go down to Chuck's gym. Let's just try to take out the randos at least. We may have to do Jasmine first in this one though, just because of the fact that we are on lower stats, so we might not be able to survive all the physical attacks. Let's find out. First up, of course, is the Black Belt Bros, starting with Yoshi's Hitmonlee. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon with Confuse Ray. It hits itself turn 1. Let's see what Return does. Looks like this is going to be a 2-hit KO, and we even get through with no damage after it just hits itself twice. So this is perfect. We're just doing Big Brother strats here, making them hit themselves. It's completely OP. I can say from years and years of fighting with my little brother back in the day, you can never beat the brother who makes you hit yourself. And before you feel too bad for my little brother, I had an older sister who basically did the same thing to me. So yeah, old school parenting, guys. It was perfect. These days, instead, my baby boy Katsumasa, though, he just likes to go belly drum on me. Like, literally, sometimes he'll just be sitting on my lap and he'll just start drumming away on daddy's belly. So, you know, it all comes full circle. That's basically the moral of the story. But of course, with the Black Belt Bros going down, we have no issues against any of these other trainers. We just have to pop out to heal real quick. And we are ready to take a shot at Chuck, just to see if we can manage to get through, since we do have a super effective move. And then I just completely mess up the puzzle there. Why did they have to put a puzzle in front of Chuck? Come on, this is like the only real challenge in the gym. Still, we have made it to Chucky Boy, so let's just see how he actually goes in this one. Chuck leads off with his Primeape, of course. I'm going to go for Surf right here, and this is going to be an easy 2-hitter. He goes for the Leer, which obviously is setting up for the Dynamic Punch later, but now I'm going to confuse the Poliwrath. It does hit Dynamic Punch and take me down to 1 HP though. Then I hit Thunder and take it down massively to 3 HP. It's confused and hits itself in confusion, so we win. Oh man, StarDF 29 out here cheesing, but I will take it. Hey, you go for confusion on me with that Dynamic Punch. I go for confusion on you. I think it's perfectly fair. And with that, we're ready to fly back to go see good old Jasmine, where I think Surf strats are going to be OP, but let's just see how this actually works out. So we've made it to Jasmine. Let's see if we just beat her on the first attempt with this CheenChou here. She leads off with Magnemite, of course. I go for Surf, and that is not a one-hitter. Oh, and I didn't even heal. So we die on the first attempt. Still, that does make me a little bit nervous that we do not one-shot against that first Magnemite. I think what we need to do is to give the Paralyzed Cure Berry here, and then we might even want to confuse the Magnemites and then go for the Surf, hoping that they hit themselves once in confusion, or that we don't get a Thunder Wave from both of them at least. And then we should be able to get through this. Let's test this out just a little bit more though. So here I'll go Confuse Ray on the Magnemite instead. It does land the Thunder Wave, but we have one Paralyzed Cure Berry that we can use here. Here it misses the second Thunder Wave, so that's perfectly fine. Magnemite number 2 comes out. We're going to confuse that Pokemon as well, but this one does land the Thunder Wave. Not much we can do, and then we get confused. That's just terrible. And it goes for Thunderbolt, which is neutrally effective, so we actually take massive damage and lose. So it turns out that Jasmine isn't quite as easy as I expected, owing largely to the fact that we're not one-hit KOing these Magnemites. This time we do get the Magnemite to hit itself in confusion on the first one though, and that means we can go all in on attack on the second one, because even if it Thunder Waves, we're just going to heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and with that we finally have a shot at Steelix. I'm going to confuse this Pokemon first. Yes, I know it's going to go Sunny Day and reduce the power of Surf, but I think it's more important to get an extra turn here or there from it hitting itself in confusion. Sure enough, it hits itself right there. She has to Hyper Potion, and this is looking like a 3 or maybe 4 hit KO at worst. She hits herself in confusion again, and we actually managed to get through. So as soon as you manage to get through the 2 Magnemites without paralysis, you're good to go there, even with a Chinchou using these Surf strats. So very nice to see. And StarDF, and of course StarDF, I just want to give you a massive thank you. You're over an entire year supporting the channel, which I can't thank you enough for. It's helping me so much to get closer to my goal of being a full-time PokeTuber. If you would like to get on this member pick action, it is the best way to support the channel. Like, I don't think people realize that one membership is literally worth like 700 or 800 views on the channel. It's insane. Honestly, if I could ever reach my goal of having every Pokemon sponsored by a channel member outside of my personal Arcanine and my baby boy's Cleffa, I would be able to be full-time as a PokeTuber and be really confident in what I was doing because of the support of the community. So that's my long-term goal, and I would love to hear from you guys if you have any ideas of things you'd like to see as members. But for now, we've got the member picks as well as the members only live streams once per month, which I think is a heck of a lot of fun. Plus they get ad-free videos released early. So if you hate YouTube ads or even hearing me read Fuchsia Pokemon sponsorships, join the channel memberships and you don't get any of that nonsense when you watch my videos. But with that, it's time to get to our final member pick of this one. Formerly Toxic Cross, but it seems they changed their name to CrossMJ, who is supporting SirQuack, the legendary Psyduck. And SirQuack is coming into this section with Surf, Headbutt, Confusion, and Ice Beam. Now, Ice Beam's probably not super useful in this section of the game, but it will be very useful as we continue in the challenge. Like, that's going to be our best move against Claire. That's going to be a great move when we get to Will's Exeggutor. If we get to Lance, I mean, the Ice Beam strats are going to be OP with this Pokemon, considering that it's at least neutral against Gyarados and super effective against everything else on his team outside of Charizard. And for Charizard, we'll have Surf anyway, so we won't really be that worried. Psyduck might actually turn out to be a beast in Gen 2 with this moveset. At the same time, it is just a Psyduck though, so it may get completely crushed at some point. But for now, I do think we have good chances of getting through this section. Now, up to this point, I have 2 Pokemon that I have basically earmarked as Pokemon that I will support no matter what, which are, of course, my Arcanine and my baby boy's Cleffa. But the other one that I would have supported had I known in advance is Psyduck. You see, I learned recently that Psyduck is my wife's favorite Pokemon. In spite of the fact that she's never really been into the Pokemon franchise, she just like brought it up one day. She was like, oh yeah, I love Psyduck, or as he's called in Japan, Golduck. She was like, I love Golduck. And I was like, really? So, like, if Psyduck ever fails here, I'm going to have to go super hard to get this Pokemon through because I don't want to go and report to my wife that I lost her favorite Pokemon in the series. Now, with all of that being said, I am going to say very quickly before somebody comments that, dude, how are you a PokeTuber and your wife doesn't like Pokemon? She's coming around, guys. She is coming around. She just wasn't really into it back in the day, but these days, as long as I speak Japanese about Pokemon, she actually gets into it. In fact, when I did the Japanese language only April Fool's video over on RBY Pokemon Challenges this year, she got super excited that I had actually made a video that she could understand start to finish. So I might have to make a separate Japanese language only channel someday just to appease my wife. But for now, we're going to take CrossMJ's Psyduck and play it to the maximum of its abilities. And it does have a few major advantages on its evolved form. Since we have the Ice Beam, we have a super effective move against Gloom. So that's an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. I think that's going to help us out an awful lot when we get to the last executive here. So here we make it to the final executive where CrossMJ I think is ready to completely crush this one. We go Confusion on the Arbok. It's a 2-hit KO. I don't know. Surf is probably the better move here, honestly. Sure enough, we knock it out nice and easy from there. On Gloom, we go Ice Beam, giving us an easy one-hitter as we get to level 30, and we'll just stick with Ice Beam on Murkrow as well, so we get through with no damage taken in that final battle. So now it's time to start getting to some gyms, where I think we're gonna start off with Pryce, just because he doesn't have any good moves against us, and while we don't have any great moves against him either, we at least have some neutral moves here. And I think we want badge boost in our special attacks, so I think that's gonna be the way to go. Obviously, Piloswine will be the easiest Pokemon there. So let's just get into it and see how it actually works out. So Pryce attempt number 1, I'm just gonna headbutt here on his seal. We get a nice flinch, and this looks to be a 3-hit KO, so easy victory there. That brings out the Dugong, which we also outspeed and flinch, so hey, headbutt is doing its job here. This looks like a 5-hit KO on this Pokemon, but that should be perfectly fine as we get to Piloswine because we have Stab Surf, and it does pretty decent damage. And then Piloswine just goes for Mist, and after that, he can go for the Hyper Potion if he wants. Because we're faster, we're just guaranteed to win from there. So that turns out that yes, Pryce cannot even beat a Psyduck. Now I could learn Psych Up here, but I'm actually going to skip that move. I don't think we need it. I don't think there are a lot of situations where opponents are setting up like massive stat boosts on themselves that we want to copy or steal from them. So I don't think that that move's actually super useful, but of course, tell me in the comments if you think I'm completely wrong about that. Who knows? Maybe there is a spot where Psych Up is the best play, but I just don't see it right here. So now we can come into Chuck's gym where we take on the Black Belt Bros. And obviously, I think there are a lot of plays we could go for here. Surf or Confusion or Headbutt. Technically, Surf should be the strongest with our higher special attack, but I'm just not quite sure how it's going to match up against that special defense. Still, I think it is the best move. It does about half here, so we do get the 2-hit KO on that first Pokemon. That brings out the Hitmonchan, where I'm going to try to stick with the Surf strat. Let's see how this works out. Once again, we do about half. We take a Thunder Punch, but we're still able to knock it out in 2 turns, so that was never really in question. Nothing else really poses a challenge, so we can just get a quick heal on, and then it's time to get back over here and take on Chucky Boy, where we've got Confusion for that Poliwrath, and Surf is actually the stronger move against the Primeape, but it's probably a 2-hitter either way. Still, let's get into this and find out. So Chucky Boy attempt number 1, I'm going to go Surf on the Primeape, and it's clearly going to be an easy 2-hitter. Let's see if Confusion just finishes it off, and it does. That brings out Poliwrath, where I'll go Confusion, and we get hit by the Dynamic Punch here. Still, we manage to hit Confusion the next turn, only to get Dynamic Punched down. We can see that Poliwrath with Confusion is about a 4-hit KO, so we're going to need to try this one again. This time we get Leer from the Primeape, which is kind of bad given that we know that this Pokemon's going for the Dynamic Punch. Here it tries to hit Hypnosis though, and that would have been a mistake anyway. We have the Mint Berry on, and then it hits itself in Confusion the next turn because our Confusion confused it this time. Hey, that's perfectly fine. Chuck goes down on the second attempt to SirQuack. Now, I think that's pretty much anime approved or anime appropriate, given that Psyduck often just didn't use the right moves in the anime. So, you know, it makes sense that we would lose at least once to a gym leader here. Still, I think we've got the next gym in the bag, because in the absolute worst case, we learn Dig over, say, Headbutt, which gives us a super effective move against the 2 Magnemites. And at that point, I think Surf completely destroys the Steelix, so I think we'll have a very easy time in that fight, but let's just see how it actually goes. So CrossMJ, let's see if you finish this one out nice and strong. Our first attempt here against Jasmine, we go for the Surf on the Magnemite, and we get a 1-hitter with a crit. Okay, so we don't know if it's actually a 1-hitter or not. Second Magnemite also goes down to a crit, so we still don't know if it's a 1-hitter or not, but we have made it to Steelix, where Surf does massive damage, and we get the 1-hit KO. So level 34 comes in as we completely crush Jasmine, and we're moving on in the game with this Psyduck, where honestly, I mean, unless it runs into some crazy trouble in the next rocket section, or maybe Rival 4, I think this Pokemon's gonna crush against Claire due to the fact that we have Ice Beam. Like, the 3 Dragonairs are probably a non-factor, and then when we get to the Kingdra, it's at least neutrally affected by that move. We could freeze it, and that would be the end of the fight. So I think CrossMJ is gonna be progressing for a hot minute here. And with that, we've completed all the Pokemon in this episode, so let's wrap up and see what's coming next time. So at the end of the day, we managed to get through this section legitimately with 31 Pokemon so far. 9 Pokemon have joined that OPTMs category. Of course, Lanturn was already there because it was running Thunder. Nothing to say about that other than, hey, you know, it happens. But that means 40 Pokemon have gotten through this section at least by getting Game Corner TMs, which is kind of ridiculous. We did have to add 1 Pokemon to the fail column though, which was that Venomoth. It's our first fully evolved Pokemon in quite a while to join the fail column, which is also pretty insane. It shows that Jasmine's not just going to be a complete pushover. She is going to put in a little bit of work here. And next week, I think we're going to have a couple Pokemon that might again fall into that category. Next week, I'm planning to come with a kind of long episode. I want to get a bunch of Pokemon out of the way, and I think some of these are just very, very interesting. We have the entire Poliwag line, including Politoed from Gen 2, Kadabra, Alakazam, which means that member pick Abra is going to have to get in on the action as well. And then we have the entire Machop line, but then I've also added in Togetic and Xatu. I'm not confident that Togetic and Xatu can actually progress too far in the game. Like, yes, Togetic does have access to Metronome, so in theory it always has a chance, but is that actually going to be enough to get it through all of these gyms when it's at least neutrally affected by everything and it doesn't have a great move pool? Xatu, I think, is even worse because as far as I recall, it doesn't learn a whole lot of strong TM moves in this section of the game that are going to be useful against Jasmine. Like, we'll have to see if Mudslap strats are enough there, but it's not really a physical attacker, so that might not actually pan out. I think most of these other Pokemon do have some pretty clear strategies though. We've already seen Primeape, so I think the fighting types are going to be good. In the case of the Abra line, they're all going to have access to elemental punches, which will make them really easy to get through this section. The water types also shouldn't really have too much issues, so I think it all just comes down to Togetic and Xatu as far as Pokemon that we could potentially lose. Like I said, I will get that Abra in there, but I do think we should get one more member pick. I'm looking at you, Jumpluff. I think it's time for Jumpluff to get on the action as well. And honestly, in spite of its grass typing, I think that Pokemon might be OP just because of all these status moves that it has. So let's get into that next time and find out. Place your predictions as usual. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.